Everybody online pretty much wants to know how to get more customers online. So that is what we are going to be covering today. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's get started here. How to get more customers online. All right, so this is going to be the different methods for getting new customers online out of the ones that I have personally tried and experimented with, working with different people and stuff. So let's get into it. So, number one is going to be paid social. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the pros and cons to each of these methods, and give some examples, give some thoughts on past experiences with them. So paid social would be things like your Facebook ads or now Meta ads. You've got your YouTube ads, you've got TikTok ads now, Snapchat ads. Any of these large social media platforms. So those would be things that I would be thinking about with paid social. So what are the pros to using paid social platforms? In my opinion, it is very scalable. If you can figure it out. Now, each one, each of these platforms is different. We'll just talk about the main, three really here. With Facebook, for instance, if you're using broad targeting, you can have ads run for a very long time, unless you're, running like a massive budget, millions of dollars. But you can have ads run for a very long time without having them fatigue. Essentially, if you're using broad targeting with Facebook ads. YouTube, I believe, we hadn't experimented as much with, YouTube video. I don't know if I've done really anything with YouTube video ads, hardly. But YouTube, from my understanding, is fairly similar with the way that it works to Facebook. Different algorithms and stuff, but it is relatively similar. TikTok, on the other hand, I have done a little bit of experimenting with TikTok, and that was one of the places that I started when we were really getting into using paid social. With TikTok, what we found is we were able to see some good results running ads on TikTok for the brand that I run ads for right now. We were seeing some good results, with ads on TikTok. The problem we were having is the ads would not last very long. So if you are not somebody, or you're not in a position where you can be constantly pumping out high quality creatives, on a regular basis, every couple weeks or so, having new creatives pumped out that are good quality, then TikTok may not necessarily be a good fit for you. Because with our case, for instance, it may differ for other people, but from what we saw, from what I've heard from other advertisers running ads on TikTok, the ads fatigue very quickly. I think it's something to do with their algorithm. And that's even if you're using broad targeting, which tends to work best on a lot of the platforms. Not all, maybe, but a lot of the platforms, for the main social media channels, broad targeting seems to be the way to go. So pros, paid social, it is very scalable, can be very effective at getting new customers. If we're talking about any of the main, platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc. But what are the cons? So number one, if you're going to be doing any kind of paid social that requires images or videos, in that case, you're going to probably have to have some degree of marketing skills. This stuff is a skill, and it's something that you have to develop over time. You can't just necessarily throw something up and then expect it to work and be upset when it doesn't. And the other, con, obviously, is this does cost money. So if you don't have that skill, or you have a business that's not exactly dialed in, you have fundamental issues within the systems of your business, like maybe your product quality sucks, or you have a hard time shipping out orders fast enough as it is, small problems can become very big problems if they don't get solved when you are trying to run paid ads. So what I would recommend, to any new business who wants to experiment with running paid ads, I would recommend, one, making sure you are already successful before you run paid ads, because most of the time, if you have a business that's already successful as it is, you've already got a good business, you're already dialed in and everything, got your pricing down and all, everything inside the business is already dialed in. If you run paid ads and you're already successful, you're essentially just adding fuel to the fire, and there is a much better probability that you'll be able to be successful, I think. If you already have a successful business, you've already kind of developed, a successful business without paid ads. So a lot of people think of paid ads as this get rich quick thing because that's what they see people talking about online, where you can just, throw some ads up and then you instantly get a 10x ROAS or whatever, right? And it's just not how it works in most cases. And it's a lot more complicated than that when we're talking about the ROAS and stuff. The ROAS isn't the only thing that matters, contrary to popular belief, in my opinion. But, long story short, if you're going to run paid ads, you want to have a successful business already that's already bringing in some customers. This is how you potentially scale, but you need to already have your business dialed in. You need to have everything already pretty much dialed in before you start, and then know that you may have to even make some tweaks as you go. You may have to adjust things as you go, and you may have to learn some skills if you're going to do it, or have somebody like myself, for instance, who does have experience running paid ads, managing your paid ads. So number 2 here, paid search. So this is going to go in that same category of paid advertising, but this is a different form of paid advertising. So what are some examples of paid search? This would be things like the Google search ads. If you've seen those ads on Google when you search for something, like say I was looking for a new gym to go to, for instance. Let's say you're a local business and you're a local gym and you're running some Google ads, right? If I go type in, gym near me or whatever, and they're targeting that area that I'm in, that ad may pop up and I may decide to click that ad for their website and then end up buying a membership, for instance. So that would be an example of Google search ads. And this differs a little bit from your traditional ads because it's a different type of ad. People who are searching for something online are generally already going to have some interest in whatever it is that they're searching for. So that can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing in other ways. Let's say you have a product that's really, really niche, something that not a lot of people are searching for online, but it's like this very unique product in this, very niche category. It doesn't have a lot of search volume on Google or Amazon, for instance. You may be able to see some good results, running these ads, but you may have a harder time scaling without going to some of those more broad terms, like, maybe trying gifting angles or something. You might be able to try some gifting angles and experiment there, but you may have a harder time, targeting those more niche terms if you're running Google search ads, for example, or maybe if you're selling on Amazon and you're running the Amazon sponsored ads that are kind of similar to the Google search ads. So you may have a harder time scaling if you're running those ads in a very niche category or a category where there's not a lot of people searching for whatever it is. But it can be a great tool to use for a small business, especially if you're just starting out. So what are the pros? I would say that is going to be one of the pros. The fact that you are able to target basically search terms or terms that people are already searching for in your niche. So that's one of the pros, is that you're able to actually target people who are already searching for whatever it is the thing that you are selling is. And what that means is, since they're already searching for whatever it is, likely what you may see is a higher return on ad spend for those terms. Also, don't really need a massive budget to start, which of course, if you're getting more conversions coming in and you're running like a conversions campaign on, Google search or whatever, or even like with Amazon, if you're running the Amazon sponsored ads, of course, if you have a higher budget and you're getting the spend and you're getting sales, that's going to benefit you in a number of ways, because if you're getting more conversions on, your Google search ads, it's going to, likely help the platform to optimize better, assuming your pixel and tracking and everything's already set up properly, which is very important. Or, with Amazon, if you're getting those conversions on Amazon, that can also help it to optimize effectively on Amazon and to even, rank you higher in the search results if you're spending more money. So these platforms really do reward you in a way for spending more money. But you can start with a lower budget. And that is one of the benefits, I would say, of something like Google search or Amazon sponsored ads. There's less variables that you have to worry about with those. So if you're doing a Google search ad, the only thing you really have to worry about is like the copy, and the text and stuff that you use in those ads. You don't have to worry about the images or, videos and opening hooks for the videos and, hiring somebody to film the content and editing the videos. So in a way, it's a lot simpler than your traditional, Facebook ad, for instance, and you can get a higher ROAS. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're completely better in every way, but, a higher ROAS, is typically a good thing, So it doesn't necessarily mean, you're going to get a bigger effect on your business from running those ads. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion is when people talk about ROAS. ROAS at the end of the day, it can be a good indicator, or cost per purchase can be a good indicator of, how something is performing, but it doesn't necessarily mean, just because a ROAS is higher doesn't mean something is necessarily better at bringing in new customers for your business. And that's going to be, a whole nother video that I could do on that. But regardless, if we're talking about, just Google search ads, Amazon sponsored ads, any of like the paid search ads, and I would say those are going to be your two main ones. If we're talking about paid search that people, really think of, a lot of the benefits are, it doesn't require a massive budget to start. It can help if you spend more, of course, but it doesn't require a massive budget to start. Fairly easy to set up in a way, relatively easy to set up, especially with Amazon. With Amazon, you can literally just launch what's called an automatic targeting campaign, and just kind of let it run basically, and then gather data and then launch other campaigns based on the data that it gathers, essentially. Google search, not super difficult to set up either. Both can be effective at bringing in new customers who are already interested in whatever it is that you're trying to buy. Cons, obviously it costs money still, even though you may get a higher ROAS, theoretically, it's still not guaranteed that you'll get any sales, using these. So you still have to have some degree of skill. You still have to have a website that's, set up properly, a good looking website, ideally, a good offer, a good business. People have to be interested in whatever it is that you're selling, but there's less variables at the end of the day to worry about. So cons, it still costs money. It may be harder to scale if you were in a very niche category, or you're targeting like a certain area where there's not a lot of search volume for something. So those would be the main cons that I would see through paid search. What about organic posting? So what would be examples of organic posting? This one's fairly obvious, I would say. This would be any brand that posts consistently. So one that comes to my mind, for instance, they're, not a massive brand by any means, but they're, brand that does a lot of business through organic, posting. There's a hot sauce brand that I found. It's called, I believe, Elijah's Hot Sauce. So shout out to them if you happen to see this, but they do a lot of organic posting, especially on like TikTok and stuff, where they're doing these order packing videos and they link their product with the TikTok shop, and they do a really good job with that content. But a lot of their posts are basically just order packing videos, but they're kind of done in a way that's kind of fun to watch, and they do a really good job with it. Sell a lot of stuff through the TikTok shop, and I think on their website too. But what are the pros to organic posting? So the pros would be, it doesn't cost money, theoretically. You can do this theoretically for free. Of course, some people will hire video editors and stuff as they grow, or they may even hire people to make content as they grow. But you can start doing this for free. This doesn't cost money to start doing. Okay, so that's one of the pros to this. Now, what are the cons? Well, it's a lot of work. So there's a lot of work involved, if you're trying to really scale a business organically just through posting content. It's a lot harder than you might think, and it is really a skill to master, how to make videos go viral, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So that is one of the cons there. Another, benefit is, you can also get your platforms monetized, and you can actually get paid for ad revenue and stuff through organic posting or potential paid sponsorships. I know of a guy, and I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to say how much he makes, but he gets paid, pretty good money. He's not a massive brand by any means, but he gets paid pretty good money. In the thousands of dollars just for like one video. and he's made, many videos for this specific brand. But it's, well into the thousands of dollars, per video, that they pay this guy. And, one video, it might take him, a couple hours or so to make. So you can also make money not only through your business, but you can also make money through paid sponsorships and stuff as well, if you develop a large following organically. Okay, so what is another method of scaling? This is one that people may not really think of if they're thinking about how to scale. So let's say you've already got a website. You're doing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month or whatever it may be, right? So what would be another way you might get scale? What I'd be looking at is, what are the main sales channels where people are on that people are using? What would come to my mind is, are you on Amazon? And if not, why is your product not on Amazon? If you have a product that people are already buying, there's already interest in, especially if you're in a category where, if you were to look on Amazon, there are other people selling the products, and there's already search volume, for instance, on Amazon. What's to say, why have you not, launched your product on Amazon? Is that something you've actually looked into doing if you're trying to scale? Maybe you're struggling to be profitable or something, you're close to break even. Well, what would happen if you launch on Amazon and then you're making another $10,000 a month, for instance, selling your product on Amazon, for example? Now, you may not make that right away, but over time, as you get reviews and you start to rank organically and stuff, you may be able to consistently make $10,000 plus a month, selling that product on Amazon. In some categories, you may be able to make a lot more than that even. You may be making $50,000, $100,000 a month selling a product on Amazon once you really get, ranked in search results and everything, for that product. Have you looked into TikTok Shop, for example? TikTok Shop's another big one that is, really kind of trying to compete against Amazon in ways. But it's another platform that is really growing, that more people are using. And they're doing all these kind of, promotions and stuff to try to get people to, use TikTok Shop. And then this is another one people might not really think of as much. If you have a product that you want to sell wholesale, a very easy way to do this is to try to get your product listed on something like Fair. Fair is a wholesale platform, and this is something we've actually been experimenting with recently for, a brand that I do some marketing stuff for. And we've already had, a handful of orders, and we just now got set up on Fair. So we're probably not even really ranked, as high in the search results. I don't think we have any reviews yet even, but we've already got some orders coming in through Fair, and we're just now getting set up and just now getting started with this. So we're already getting wholesale orders through here. And I think we had like 2 just in the past few days. So that is nice to see, of course. Now, what are the pros to setting up on other sales channels? The pros, are pretty obvious. More potential revenue, more ability to reach new customers, more ability to, rank organically, for instance, in those search results on those platforms, whether it be Amazon or TikTok Shop. And if you do that, then you're just getting more free customers, essentially, if you're able to rank in those search results. So a lot of pros potentially to setting those up. Now, what are the cons? The cons are, for some of these platforms, you may have to pay fees to use them, or there may be like a monthly fee. And another con I would say is, if you're going to be shipping all the stuff yourself, it could make things a little bit more complicated if you have multiple different platforms, causing a little bit more work for you. If you have to switch between different platforms and you're not using something to kind of keep everything synced and into one place, you may have a little bit more work to do. If you don't automate this and say do Amazon FBA, and then sync your Fair orders with your Shopify and sync the TikTok Shop orders or whatever. There's ways you can go about it, but it can still make things a little bit more confusing. But overall, this I would definitely recommend doing if you haven't yet and you have a brand that's already consistently bringing in sales. All right, so this is one that people don't really think of, I think, and this is a very, very, very valuable one. A lot of brands may not really think about this and how it can affect your business. And this can indirectly allow you to scale your business. And what I mean by that is, say, for example, you have a brand that's bringing in sales, but you're struggling to be profitable. You've got these big payroll expenses. You've got your costs that go into your product, whatever it is, right? You've got all these different expenses. You're not making as much sales as you would like to, and you're struggling to be profitable. So if that is the case, you're going to have a very hard time scaling a business that's not making money. If you do that, there is a possibility you could actually start losing money if you don't fix certain issues. So what would be examples of improving efficiency to be able to better scale your business? So let's say you're doing seller fulfilled on Amazon, where you're doing Amazon FBM, as they call it, fulfilled by a merchant. And you switch to Amazon FBA to automate that fulfillment. That would be one example of making your business more efficient. So say you have a small product, right? You're already, let's say like this, for example. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is just a shaker bottle. Maybe you sell shaker bottles. Now, if I wanted to sell that on Amazon, they're going to charge me a fee, even if I'm not doing Amazon Prime. So even if you're doing FBM, some people may not be aware of this. You're paying a fee for every sale that you make, a referral fee to Amazon for every sale that you make, and you're probably going to be paying for shipping as well. So if you were to add up the fees on a small product like that, and you were to compare it in the fees that you would pay to do Amazon Prime or FBA, you're probably going to be paying, for a smaller product. It's going to vary, but there is a chance you could actually be paying more to ship the product yourself than what you would pay to actually have Amazon ship that product and handle the fulfillment. And on top of that, people like to buy stuff that is Prime eligible. They want the Prime shipping that's fulfilled by Amazon. So people like to buy stuff with the fast 2-day shipping, and they trust Amazon. So they look for that Prime badge, and that Prime badge will affect that conversion rate for the product. If you don't have that Prime badge and you don't have the 2-day shipping, it takes a week or 2 weeks or whatever, for your product to arrive, that's going to affect your conversion rate, and you're probably, in fact, most likely going to sell less of your product because of that. And it's also going to most likely affect your organic rankings as well in the search results. So if you're doing FBM, you're probably not going to rank as high as if you were doing FBA. So Amazon's going to, basically give you more customers if you do FBA also, and you're probably going to make yourself more efficient to switch to Prime shipping, for instance. What would be another example of improving efficiency? Maybe you're struggling to get your orders shipped out yourself, because you're struggling to keep up with the demand for your product as you're scaling. You started really scaling, maybe using different methods, scaling through Facebook ads or whatever it is, right? You're struggling to keep up with the demand of the orders. You get really busy, and then other stuff doesn't get done. This is the thing you see with, smaller businesses is they'll get really busy, and then they're, directly involved with all the operations and stuff inside the business. So they're actually, packing the orders and stuff. If you do that, and you switch to a 3PL, that eliminates that essentially, if you've got a good 3PL, as something that you have to worry about. Now, instead of worrying about getting those orders shipped out, you can now worry about what you need to do to actually scale the business. So that can be a very big one as well, where it might cost you a little bit more, but a good 3PL, you could find it for probably roughly about the same as what it costs you to fulfill the orders yourself. And in some cases, you may be able to actually get the product out to your customers faster by doing this. So there may be some fee involved, but it can be a very effective way to do things. So what's another one? Developing systems for better product assembly, ways to assemble the product faster, improving the design, for instance, to allow for faster product assembly, more efficiency in that area, less parts, reducing costs by removing unnecessary parts or things that don't really do anything and just add complexity to a product. This is something you see, occasionally, where maybe there's certain parts on a product that really don't do anything or that customers don't really want, and just makes for more work. Removing those products or, improving the design to where those aren't included can be a great way to potentially reduce costs, but also make the product better even. And, add for less assembly time. So improving the product itself, using maybe better materials, finding a better manufacturer for the product that maybe even, offers lower pricing. But so if you can find a better manufacturer that gives you a lower price, that would definitely help in a lot of ways. But just make sure they are actually better and have better quality. Optimizing your pricing. This is another one people don't think about. Test raising your prices if you haven't yet. Just do it in a strategic way if you do, but definitely if you've never tested raising your prices, this is something I would definitely test. Because sometimes what you may find is you may raise your prices $3, $5, whatever it is. You could start with $1 if you wanted. You may raise your prices and you may not see any change, like basically no change in your conversion rate, except for you making an extra $3 or $5 a unit on every order that you have. If you have 1,000 orders a month and you raise your prices $5, you just made 5,000 extra dollars a month with something that took you maybe a few seconds to do. So definitely test raising your prices. It's definitely worth testing in that regards. So data-driven purchases. This is another thing. Now, what do I mean by this? When you purchase something for your business, so if you've got a business bringing in, let's say 40 grand a month or whatever it is, right? When you purchase something for your business, one thing you need to make sure of is that if you're going to spend money, you need to be spending money on stuff that is proven to work and that actually has real data behind it, or it actually has a trackable ROI or a potential to actually give you an ROI. So if I'm, making some money in my business and I'm just now starting to get profitable, let's say we're making $50K a month. And I go out and I buy, maybe I'm making $5,000, $6,000 or so every month in profit after, all my other expenses and payroll and crap. Now, let's say I go out and I go buy me a new truck or whatever it is. I buy a new sports car, so I go out and I buy a new sports car just because I'm, maybe making a little bit of money, even though, we're not, a massive business. If I go out and I buy that sports car with this money and I pay cash for it, that's not exactly a purchase that's going to give me a return on investment. That's just going to eat away at your cash flow. And so part of, running an efficient business is knowing how to manage your money. So when you're spending money, there needs to be a logical reason for why you're spending money and why you're buying the amounts of stuff that you are if you're ordering inventory. You need to be able to answer that question and say, okay, if I'm ordering 3,000 units of this, why? Why am I ordering this much? Where does this data show that I'm going to be able to sell this much or that I need to order this much? There needs to be like a logical reason for the stuff that you're doing. And if there isn't, you're going to have a hard time succeeding in the business world. So what are the pros to doing this stuff? Can have a very good long-term ROI. And this is really a lot of times the stuff that really allows a business to be able to scale is having this stuff dialed in. And it can be more complicated depending on the business and what you're selling, how big the business is and everything. It can vary with how complicated it is depending on the business itself, right? But the pros are definitely, this is really the stuff that allows you in many ways to be able to even scale a business to begin with, on a larger scale at least. So what are the cons here? The cons here are, if you do this stuff, it can be a lot of work. Some of this stuff especially can be a lot more complicated than it sounds if you do it correctly. It can, in some cases, maybe add costs, with some of these different things, if you're trying to improve efficiency. So it can be more complicated. It can add extra work. It can be a lot of work, but this stuff, can really allow you to improve your business. All right. So scaling through other methods. So I figured, I would cover this also because you hear a lot about these people online talking about these other paid platforms and crap, when they're trying to promote these different platforms. Now, this is no shade at this company or anything, but this would be stuff like, your Taboola ads, your lesser known ad platforms, or these like smaller websites and stuff that are promoting these alternate ways to advertise. This would be hiring, a freelancer or something to drive traffic to your site for $50 or something. All these other different methods that are less talked about, I guess, or less known than the main methods, or even, you could go as far as saying like Facebook traffic ads, for instance. I mean, there may be some cases where, some more advanced people may use strategies with like traffic ads and stuff, for instance. But generally speaking, if you're using like traffic ads, or you're using these other platforms that are lesser known, like, Taboola or whatever, or you're hiring a freelancer just to drive traffic to your site, and they're not, telling you where the traffic's coming from, you're probably not going to get much out of it. You're just going to be basically wasting your money, in my opinion. And there may be cases where that's not the case, but in my opinion, this is probably one of the worst ways to spend your money if you were trying to actually bring in sales for your business and get new customers. That can be because it can be very hard to track with some of these different methods, alternate methods, on where the traffic is actually coming from and if it's actually quality traffic. Because just because you're getting traffic doesn't mean these are actually people who would buy your product. So I would say the pros, there really aren't many pros, in my opinion, with these other alternate methods. Maybe it could be effective for some businesses. I've never seen any success with that. But cons, there's definitely a lot of cons. This stuff costs money. In my opinion, it's a waste of time and money in most cases. But yeah, that's about all I've got for those. Then you can also go as far as saying, scaling through email and SMS marketing. So maybe you're not doing any email, you're not doing any SMS marketing at all, no flows set up, no discount codes, nothing. One way you could scale might be as simple as just sending out occasional emails and texts, text blast, for instance, for a new product release or a new sale that's going on. You can test different offers, some limited edition release. We had one that we sent out a text for Black Friday, and that one text that took me maybe 10 minutes or so to write, and set up and everything, that text, did about $2,200 in sales. It was over $2,200 in sales, I believe, and that was just on Black Friday, or just from the Black Friday text. So one text that we sent out did over $2,200 in sales. And, that's, another reason I would say SMS marketing can be very effective. Now, what are the pros? Like I've said, can be very effective. You can bring in a lot of new customers if you know how to use this stuff and you have a business where you can use it. Can be a very effective way to bring in new customers. Now, what are the cons? The cons would be these people have to sign up for your text or email list. So you have to kind of already have a business that's, getting quality traffic from other places, and have to already have a list of some sort in most cases for this to be effective. Now, there may be some businesses, depending on what you're selling, where you could have a very small list and you could still get a lot out of it. But generally, you would probably want, thousands of people at least on these lists for it to really be effective, I think. And you could start with a smaller list even, but, generally speaking, you want a decent sized list at least for this stuff to be able to be effective. Now, what are the other cons? The other cons would be, this can cost money. Now, especially with SMS marketing, with the email marketing, it tends to be less expensive from what I've seen. With SMS marketing, sending out these text blasts, depending on the platform, and it can vary, but it can get pretty expensive. So with that being said, we don't do as much of the SMS marketing, and we focus more on the email because it doesn't really cost a lot, but it can bring in, a pretty good amount of extra sales for our business. So we tend to focus more, on the email just because it's less expensive than the SMS marketing. But we still do occasionally send out text blasts, like I'd mentioned. So both of them can be very effective, but people have to be signed up for your list for you to be able to market to them, right? So you have to get them signed up, and you can do it through like a pop-up, for instance, or some kind of promotion. There's different ways to go about doing it, but you generally already have to have a business that's already kind of up and running for that to really be effective. But you also have to have the money to spend on the SMS marketing or whatever it is, if you're going to be doing that as well. So, and then the last one we have here is scaling through influencers. So this is going to be something like, this is a more extreme example, Michael Jordan promoting Nike, how they did the the Jordans, with the Air Jordan shoes, and they have this whole line of, Michael Jordan shoes. That would be one example of influencer marketing that was extremely successful. Now that's on a very large scale, but you could still do this sort of marketing in your own brand. You could, collaborate with some influencer to release a new product, or you could just, hire them to post about your brand, for instance, and do some kind of sponsorship deal. So there's different ways to go about it, but what are the pros? The pros are, obviously, as you could see, like in Nike's case, this was extremely effective for them in selling those Jordans, and they even have like movies about this stuff now. So very effective for them. If you get this right, it can be very effective, and you can bring in lots of new business. As you can see, other brands do this kind of stuff too. It can help to build trust in your brand. If it's somebody that your target audience really resonates with, it can really impact your business positively. Now, what are the cons? The cons are you're going to have to pay money to do this. So you're going to have to invest some money. And if you want to get like a big shot influencer, somebody who's already at a large scale and has, millions and millions of followers, and they're like the authority figure in your niche or whatever, generally it's going to cost a pretty good amount of money if you want to hire them. So that is something to keep in mind. And it can also be hit or miss. If you hire the wrong person or somebody who's not really a good fit for your brand, for instance, you may not see many sales from that. If you're selling like some drop shipping pet product, for instance, and your product's not very good, and then you go hire some influencer just because they have a bunch of followers to promote it, nothing really is going to say that you are going to even get any sales from that post. You might get one, or something. You may have paid, for instance, $1,000+ to have them post this video, and you may hardly get any sales, at least, through the post that they made. So nothing really is guaranteed with that, unless it's, you have some kind of deal where it is, or maybe they're working with you as an affiliate. So nothing's really guaranteed with that, which would be another con. So anyways, that is it for this video. Drop a comment below of what you want to see next. Subscribe for more. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I would be happy to hear from what you all have to say. Anyways, that is going to be it for this video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more.